And greetings everyone, Evil Tomato here, and today we are going to be kind of starting a little mini-series. I originally wanted to do just one whole video on Matt Walsh trying to shift the narrative of the media and this tragedy that has happened. But it's going to be way too long to do that, so we're going to have to take it piece by piece by piece, and I'm hoping you all are okay with that. And let's get into Mr. Walsh and see what lovely ideas he has in that big brain of his, because you know.
Today, the Matt Walsh Show. After the media spent days blaming me and other conservatives for the gay club shooting in Colorado, we are now being told that the shooter is a non-binary they-them. Interesting. Also, the Daily Kos is forced to retract.
Okay, for one, I have to point out, people like him do not believe in people. He goes on later on in the video talking about how he doesn't believe there's such thing as non-binary and trans people. They have this messed up misconception that all trans and non-binary people are, mentally ill, and it's not real, and yeah.
An egregious lie they told about me. It is possible, apparently, to hold these left-wing organizations accountable, which is a lesson that we on the right need to learn. Plus, Joy Reid airs footage from a drag queen story hour, hoping to prove that the events are actually appropriate for children, but instead proving the opposite. A woman blames Universal Studio for the fact that she...
Okay, on that right there, can you tell me what the danger is, especially at family-friendly drag shows where they're just reading a book or something to kids? You always bring up this argument of that we're grooming, when really we're just performing art. Drag is art. It is not some form of trying to corrupt your kids. Trust me. If it was that easy, why didn't I turn out cis and straight? Like, I was around straightness my whole life, had it forced upon me, and yet I ended up queer as fuck. But for some reason, your kids are so impressionable that they can't know that people like me exist because you trans people icky.
She was too fat to fit on the roller coasters, and finally, someone very close to me must be canceled in today's tragic daily cancellation. All of that and more today on The Matt Walsh Show. I've spent this whole week hearing about how I am responsible for a mass shooting in Colorado. This always seemed strange to me as...
But Matt, weren't you the guy who, at the beginning of this year, you said you're starting an all-out war on gender ideology? Did you say that? Didn't you make a terrible documentary where you were confused on what a woman is? Ladies and gentlemen, and people of anywhere in between, I find it funny that he's trying to play the woe is me card, like, oh no.
I never committed any mass shooting, and I wasn't even in Colorado on the night in question, so my alibi checks out. But I am responsible anyway, they said, because I inspired the psycho who walked into a gay club on Saturday and killed 5 people. I inspired him, so did Chris Rufo and Tucker Carlson and Libs of TikTok and others. We inspired him specifically by being too openly opposed to the sexualization and castration of children. And such a view apparently...
Yes. It's a little known thing as sarcastic terrorism. It's where you incite the mob, which is very easy to do because people are stupid, but you are the one who caused all this rhetoric and hatred to spread.
apparently inspires murderous rage in people. Now, as I've argued over the last few days, this accusation, which has been made against us by every major media outlet and by thousands of random leftist ogres online, is absurd and inane and baseless and designed to blackmail us into accepting the left's abuse of children. That, and it's also an accusation being made in spite of the fact that we hadn't yet been told anything specific about the shooter or his actual motivations. There was a conspicuous gap in the story. Now, most of the time,
yes, we already knew a whole bunch about the shooter, and just because it happens, there's not info just like that. People have to look in, because a lot of the info you could find online would be fake information. You have to check sources. That's why it took a little bit of time, but not 8 hours after we had all that information, but you're claiming we didn't? Have you forgotten how to read, bro? For real?
after a mass shooting, we know the shooter's whole life story within like 30 minutes. His social media posts begin circulating and everything else. And this is especially the case if the shooter is right-wing. If that's the case, then we hear all about his right-wing posts, his right-wing statements, his manifesto is published and picked over. We'll know which right-wing media personalities he followed on Twitter or retweeted. We will know all of that. And yet, in this case, even though the media insisted that the shooter is a right-wing radical inspired by dastardly conservative figures like myself, strangely enough, we were never given any specific information to support that claim.
Actually, you were. He put out a manifesto of people that inspired him, and you were on that list. So was Libs of TikTok, Ben Shapiro. He's the grandson of a MAGA Republican and the son of a Jehovah's Witness homophobic family.
This in spite of the fact that he had been taken alive and has been interviewed by investigators. Even still, we were never told anything about his own stated motives or anything else about his actual life.
Okay. You weren't told that, but if you can, there's this thing that the FBI does with stuff like this. It's a psychological profile, and looking at what he grew up around and the area is in, the profile fits that this is a right-wing motivated hate crime. But you want to deny that, and you're going to try to twist the narrative that this was a gay-on-gay crime, and this just happens because the gays, and they just shouldn't exist.
The only things we knew for sure were some background details, such as the fact that this guy, the same guy, was arrested for threatening to blow up his house last year. We also knew that his grandfather...
You know, my big question is, how do we fail so bad as a society where, did you know we are the #1 country with gun-related crime? Don't you think that's a problem? No, I'm not saying take away everyone's guns. I'm not for that. I am not a gun owner, but I know people that are. I just want more responsible gun ownership. If we could get a little bit of that, we might be able to at least lower the number of violent crimes in America.
There was an obscure, low-level Republican politician, a fact which is supposed to prove something, but which of course proves nothing, as it's not exactly unheard of that a member of Gen Z might have different politics from his grandfather. It also came to light that the shooter's mother is a drug addict and criminal with multiple warrants for her arrest, and his estranged father is a former MMA fighter and drug smuggler who became a porn star who goes by the stage name Dick Delaware. So, what was emerging was a picture of a deranged, demented young man from a broken home and a tumultuous upbringing.
Okay. What he's doing here is he's trying to basically sugarcoat the fact that and push the blame over to his environment and how it was brought up. But I came from a messed up family, and I've never gone and shot up a queer safe space, so Do you have a point?
Who lashed out violently in a way that can be partially blamed on many exigent factors, all having to do with the way he was raised and none having to do with this podcast story.
But your podcast also affects how he was raised. You are building the narrative in America that is causing major harm. And these people are so tuned into you and Fox News that they hear and no one see the problem. It's not that the things you say are bad. They are completely bad. But no one is willing to look more into these details to see. They've all got swept up in the new wave trans panic, and when you have crazy people with guns swooped up in hysteria, this is what happens.
A libs of TikTok tweets. But then last night, another detail emerged. A detail that may explain why we have heard surprisingly little about the shooter up until now. Despite the shooter being portrayed as an avowed right-winger inspired by conservatives, according to the media, we've not actually been given any evidence at all to support that assertion, and now perhaps we know why. The Denver Post reports, quote, "The person suspected of killing 5 and wounding 18 after opening fire in a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs is non-binary," their defense attorney wrote in court filings Tuesday. Joseph Archambault and Michael Bowman, the state public defenders for suspect Anderson Lee Aldrich, filed a slew of motions Tuesday and included a footnote about Aldrich's identity. Quote, "Anderson Aldrich is non-binary," the footnote says. "They use they-them pronouns, and for the purposes of all formal filings will be addressed as Mix Aldrich, MX Aldrich." And there it is.
Okay. On that, all I have to say is, so what? Who cares? I'm sorry. No matter how you identify, it don't matter. You went to a gay bar. You went to a queer safe space and targeted and shot and killed queer people. No, this is still a hate-motivated crime, and yeah, you couldn't ask, because what happens to, he was probably, okay, let's just say they're non-binary, which I'm sorry, people may get mad at me for this, but I don't see any proof that this person is not binary. You know, I understand what it's like to, because I am non-binary trans femme, but I'm thinking it's very deep-rooted self-hatred that, because that's why you see certain queer people when they were younger, they were super homophobic and super transphobic, because at one point in my life, when I was like 13, I was there. I hated myself because I grew up around this type of stuff, and talking points being around a lot of Christians growing up, and it made me hate myself, and you would always use that hatred as a way to deflect the, I'm not really like this.
A non-binary they-them with a porn star father. Not exactly my target audience. Now, why would someone who identifies that way attack a gay bar? Well, for many reasons, potentially. It's not at all unheard of for a member of the LGBT community to attack their own community. In fact, it just happened elsewhere in the country.
There it is. I told you it was coming.
This week, in New York City, it was revealed that the culprit who had been smashing windows on a gay bar in Hell's Kitchen is a gay man with some kind of personal grudge against the bar. Of course, the media in that case also assumed right away that this is a right-wing hate attack. No, it was a gay guy. Could that be the case in Colorado Springs? Maybe. Could it be that this guy was spurned or rejected by some...
Funny fact, did you know 7% of all hate crimes are perpetrated by white right-wing people? the facts show. There's a YouTuber named Connor that has a video about it. So, can you blame? Okay, I'm not saying either way, but it just adds up. It's probability. Your group is the most likely to go and commit these type of crimes. So until you show me other evidence, that's what I'm going to assume happened.
Somebody at the club and was lashing out for that reason. Again, maybe it's quite plausible. I don't know. Could he have some other personal reason? Maybe. We don't know. We may never know. And because not only the media, but local law enforcement and the Attorney General of the state have all gone on the record predicting that this was a right-wing crime, it seems likely to me that they'll find a way to force that motivation onto this guy, whether it's true or not. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear in the next few days that he has recanted his non-binary status after some, shall we say, persuasion from the powers that be. Wouldn't surprise me. Meanwhile, the corporate media is fumbling around for a way to handle this new revelation. On CNN last night, the stunned and nearly speechless.
I love how he frames that. It's a popular tactic to, they never name just one thing, because if you just say the corporate media or these guys that control everything, it instokes more fear. Just thought I'd point that out.
News anchor simply decided that she wasn't going to accept the revelation at all. That's how she's handling it. She's just not going to accept it. And let's watch that moment.
So, attorneys.
Okay, on the not accepting that. As a trans person, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, it's things aren't adding up. But, we shall see. I shall post updates if we find out otherwise.
For the accused shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich, say in new court filings tonight that the suspect now identifies as non-binary. In a footnote to a motion asserting legal privileges, the public defenders say, quote, Anderson Aldrich is non-binary. They use they, them pronouns, and for the purposes of all formal filings will be addressed as Mix Aldrich. So in other words, not Mr. or Ms. Joining me now, CNN political commentator Errol Lewis, also back with me, Al Franken and Joe Walsh. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's not anything that we had heard from his background. People have been looking into his background. And I don't know if anybody here, are you guys lawyers? I mean, I don't know if, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's what he's now saying.
It sounds like they're trying to prepare a defense against a hate crimes charge. That's the least of his problems, legally speaking.
Yep. My point exactly. Thank you. At least there's still a little bit of, intelligence in our world. Oh my God.
But it looks like they're trying to build some kind of sympathy or at least confusion on the question of whether or not this was purely motivated by hate.
That is what it sounds like. We'll wait to see.
Listen to all the misgendering.
Oh my God, you're one to freaking talk. Someone go down his Twitter feed all day long. He misgenders trans and non-binary people all damn day, and you're gonna dog whistle that? Bruh, you gotta come with something stronger.
Shameful. Now, it's possible that the shooter did in fact discover his inner non-binary truth as a convenient way of trying to avoid hate crime charges. That's a possible scenario. Though there are plenty of reasons to doubt such a theory, beginning with the fact that a person who commits a violent hate crime is not likely to assume the identity of the group he hates. I mean, when was the last time you heard about an anti-Semitic shooter killing Jewish people and then converting to Judaism to avoid the hate crime charge 2 days later?
See, more. You're making my point, bruh. You're making my point that, yeah. Thank you. You're making this too easy for me today, man.
Part of the point of the crime in a case like that is to make a statement. That's why a lot of times there's a manifesto that goes along with it. It's difficult to make the statement when you're immediately identifying yourself with the group that you slaughter. Also, avoiding the hate crime charge offers no benefit. The killer's going to spend the rest of his life in prison no matter what, whether convicted of a hate crime or convicted simply of 5 counts of regular old first-degree murder. Doesn't benefit from it.
But you fail to add in the factor, if you have a hate crime against queer people and you get locked up nowadays, as someone who has done a little bit of time in my past for stuff I'm not proud of, I will weigh in a little bit on this right here. If he gets the hate crime marker, it's going to be a lot worse for him, because he's going to be a target, and if he doesn't have the hate crime, he might be able to get PC and all that, and a bunch of other factors that you're not taking into consideration. But, moving on.
You're going to prison for the rest of your life, and there's no other option, because in Colorado they don't have the death penalty. But this is all essentially irrelevant. The point is that, first of all, the left has no right to deny anyone's self-identity. That is the rule they established, and they must be held to it. These same people would insist that even when a male sex offender suddenly comes out as a woman while in prison, we may not even speculate about the possibility that his trans awakening might have been motivated by a desire to gain access to female inmates. And when a man identifies as a woman and next thing you know, he's disrobing in a woman's locker room,
Okay, for one, your facts are a bit off, buddy. Yes, that has happened, but it's a very, very small percentage, like 0.2% of all incarcerated trans people. For most of it, it's the trans one. You should have a trans woman in a woman's prison because the amount of rape. Trans women being locked up with a bunch of men become a object for trade and get forced into sex work against their will. So that's why we want trans women to be safe. That's all.
we may not even speculate that his trans identification is fueled, at least in part, by his desire to gain access to naked women. There are many self-serving reasons why a person might call themselves trans or non-binary. What we know for sure is that they aren't calling themselves trans or non-binary because they actually are trans or non-binary, since no such category exists.
Really? No such category exists? Let's see, we're not gonna talk about Warpath. We're not gonna talk about how all major scientific and medical institutions recognize the existence of trans and non-binary people, but we can't read that. It just doesn't compute. Okay.
In biological reality, it is a made-up, invented, human-made category. So there's always going to be some other reason, be it mental illness or something more calculated and self-serving. I know that, and you know that. But the left denies everything I just said, which means that they have no basis for refusing to respect the shooter's non-binary identity. As far as their ideology is concerned, if he says he's a they, then he's a they, and that's all there is to it. That is their belief. That's the precedent that they on the left have set, and we will for damn certain force them to live by it. Anytime you hear someone on the left say, well, maybe you're not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to do that. You do not have the right to do it. You can't. Because according to you, the only thing necessary to prove that someone is non-binary is for them to say that they are non-binary. That's it. No other evidence required. No counter evidence is allowed to be admitted.
I'm confused, buddy. it's almost like you don't like information. You spew the same thing over and over again, and you won't allow any new information. I forgot. You're kind of a POS, but okay.
Oh, if you're on the left, you're stuck. Again, you set the precedent. You have to respect his identity. I don't. I don't have to respect it, and I don't. I don't respect anything about this guy. But you do, because these are your rules. So take your own medicine and choke on it. Second point.
I'm listening.
Whatever else comes out about this guy, them. We already know enough to know that the media jumped to wild and baseless conclusions. They did it without evidence, and in spite of the evidence that was already known. And they did it so quickly and so furiously, precisely so that they could set the narrative before the truth, whatever the truth happens to be, comes out. They never cared about the victims. They are happy that those people were killed. This is what you have to understand about the media if you don't yet. They are happy that it happened. Their only regret is that more didn't die to make this an even bigger story.
Okay, right here is a little thing we like to call projection. This is a common right-wing tactic because, well, let's just get a little background information in. A bunch of right-wingers have got caught in like child pedophile rings, but they don't talk about that because they shift the narrative to, all queer people are indoctrinating kids. And so how I like to look at it is anything he says is what they're actually doing.
Because to the scurrying, skulking little roaches in the media, the only thing that matters is that this event gives them an opportunity to slander and defame their enemies, like me, like Tucker Carlson, like Live the TikTok, Chris Ruffo, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, and others. So,
Slander their enemies, that's nice. But wasn't it 2 hours after the shooting went down, Live the TikTok tweeted out another gay bar that was having a drag show, and said that this needs to be stopped. So, but we're the ones in the wrong. I forgot.
it's all that matters to them. We're all owed apologies. I mean, whatever else happens next, we are owed apologies. But
No, you're not.
of course, we'll never get them. We'll have to be satisfied with the simple knowledge that those who seek always to destroy us with lies and libel are nothing but soulless charlatans and
I was wondering when he's going to get to this point. I forgot. The cis-hat white male Christians are so oppressed in this country. Like, you'll always, in like anyone who does talking points like this guy, him, Ben Shapiro, like all the crazy mega churches. There's another guy that on here that covers that. And it's always, they're so persecuted, they're so getting canceled every day when they are not. Like, he is one of the biggest political commentators on YouTube and Twitter. So, are you really being oppressed that bad? Are you really?
bloodthirsty sociopaths who can barely contain their orgasmic glee whenever there's a tragedy because it gives them ratings and it gives them political ammunition, and those 2 things are the only 2 things they care about in this world.
That's what you're doing right now. Like, you just summed yourself up, bro. What the fuck?
I consider it a great honor to be hated so much by such loathsome, disgusting trolls as these. And I take solace in the knowledge that they have nuked their own credibility, so that at this point their lies can only convince a sad and dwindling collection of the dumbest and most gullible idiots to ever walk the face of the earth.
Bro, I think you messed up. I think you're talking about your audience. You know, it's been proven that more more diverse cultures and more intelligent cultures are more accepting. Instead of you, oh, of course, we're talking about the guy who believes in such old-fashioned gender roles, and he's got the whole wife make me a sandwich thing going on. Man, I feel sorry for her.
All the rest of us are impervious to their propaganda. That's why the corporate media is dying and will eventually be dead. And when it's finally dead, we will dance joyfully on its grave, the way they dance on the graves of mass shooting victims. The only difference is that they will deserve the desecration. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. You need to switch to the pro-life, pro-family cell phone company, Charity Mobile. Charity Mobile has the same great nationwide mobile phone service and coverage.
What? Did I just hear that? For real? For real? They have an anti-woke phone company. Like, this is some cringe ad right here. Of course, Matt Walsh gotta get that plug in, and since we're doing plugs, hey, everyone, you can go down below and hit that little subscribe button. It'll make me so happy if you just hit that little button.
Coverage as other carriers, and they send 5% of your monthly plan price to the pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice. You don't have to compromise on value or service. Charity Mobile offers the latest phones and tablets and live customer service based right here in the USA. While many other companies are bowing to the woke mob by donating to pro-choice causes and candidates.
Bowing to the woke mob, yes. That makes me feel so good inside. Yes, that's right. Get on your knees.
Or reimbursing their employees' travel expenses so that if they live and work in a pro-life state, they can travel to a pro-abortion state, get an abortion, and be back at work on Monday. While they're doing that, Charity Mobile continues to fight for the right to life. Pro-life causes need your continued support. Now, through the end of the year, Charity Mobile customers get a free phone, free activation, free shipping, and free portable battery charger while supplies last. All you got to do is mention offer code Walsh. Call 1-877-474-3662 or chat with them online at CharityMobile.com. Mention offer code Walsh. That's CharityMobile.com. Mention code Walsh. Of course, talking about the lies from the media, I would be remiss if I didn't mention none were more egregious, as I mentioned briefly yesterday, than the Daily Kos, which published a headline yesterday quoting me as saying that I wish more people were killed at the gay club. Quote, they put it in quotes. They put it in Matt Walsh quote, and they put that in quotes, that I wish more people were killed. Of course, I never said that or anything.
Okay, what was said, if I'm correct, was more along the lines, well, you shouldn't exist. Just go back to the closet. This wouldn't happen if you weren't out here, quote unquote, grooming our kids. It's like, yeah, you were probably happy about the shooting. I'm not gonna lie. I bet when you heard about this, you did a little old white boomer dance.
Close to that. But leftist propaganda rags like the Daily Kos, they have grown accustomed to just sort of casually defaming conservatives with no consequence. Because that's the world they've been living in for years. They can just do whatever they want and say whatever they want, and there is no consequence because nobody ever holds them to anything, to any kind of standard. I mean, conservatives have complained about it. Well, no one holds them to a standard. But then there was never any attempt to make them abide by any standard. But that world is gone. Okay, those days are over. Because I'm not going to tolerate it, I can tell you that. So.
Oh no, little Maddie is all mad. It brings joy to my cold heart.
I demanded a published retraction and correction. They did, when I first pointed this out, they pretty quickly took the article down. They just deleted it. And they were hoping that would be enough. But then I responded by saying, no. You can't just delete it, okay? You need to retract it, and you need to publish your retraction and admit what you did. And about an hour or so later, they did that. They published, they took the headline down. They put the article back up without the headline. Instead, now it says retracted. And then they have this note at the top. In a previous headline for this article, we misattributed a quote to Matt Walsh. We regret not properly. This article is in direct violation of our editorial policy, and we have removed it. Now, I must say that.
And yet, you go on to say right-wing political figures are being canceled. This does not sound like cancellation to me, but it must be nice to have like so many delusions up there that like, oh my God. The world does not revolve around you as much as you would like it to, my dear kind sir.
That I do find it quite pleasurable to think about how painful it was for them to bend to my will and give in to my demands and admit that they lied about me. That's got to be very painful. Like to have to do something that would be as painful for them as it would be for me if I had to do something the Daily Kos. Can you imagine if the Daily Kos demanded that I do something, that I say something, and then I said it? Like I'd rather be dead than that. I would choose death over that. That's how disgusting that thought is to me. And yet for them, they didn't choose death before dishonor. They took the dishonor and they just went ahead and published that, which is great. Now, true, they don't apologize to me directly. I could also still sue them. In fact, they admit guilt in their retraction. That's the great part. They could have tried to claim, keep in mind, they could have tried to claim that the headline was, worded confusingly and it was being misinterpreted or something. That would be total nonsense, of course, but they could have claimed that. And obviously they have no compunction about lying. So they already lied in the headline. They could lie again to try to get out of this pickle they put themselves in. But they don't. Instead, they admit that they misattributed the quote to me. See, I think their defenders on the left, before they took the article down, their defenders were saying that, no, they're not even trying to quote you. You're lying about what the article is. They're not quoting you. That's not what the intention.
See, we've fallen into this bad problem, and this will be the last little note for this section, and then I'm going to start editing, but I'll leave you guys with this. The reason why all this is happening is the amount of money Matt Walsh makes a lot of platforms, gives him a lot of leeway, like on YouTube and Twitter. His platform is so big that he can get away with anything, and yet at the same time everyone's lying against him, and also he's so prosecuted. But that's about all for part 1 of is the right lying to you. Give me a day or so, and part 2, I'll start work on part 2. And thank you all for stopping by. If you're still here at the end, go and drop a like, a subscribe, and you all have a good day and keep up the fight. If we all work together, we can make the world a better place. And catch you later.